frosty December evening in New York, I made my way to meet pedal steel player Matt Beck. When I arrived, he began setting up, and I realized just how mechanical the instrument is. I started by asking Matt about one of the features which was immediately apparent, the disembodied guitar-like neck on the top of the instrument.
You're right, it's essentially a guitar, and that, it starts there. It's like a 10-string guitar that sits horizontal, and played with a bar. So it's similar to any other guitar in that respect, but then what makes it really unique is what's going on underneath.
Right.
Which you've got 3 pedals that raise the strings, different points. I can go over that. And you also have 4 knee levers. Using those things in conjunction with each other, and using the bar to go up and down the neck, you have a ton of options to, harmonically, melodically.
So it's a lot more mechanical than I kind of thought. Maybe we could go over what the open tuning is here.
Sure. Well, this particular tuning is an E9. There's also a C6 tuning, which is fairly popular, but I use the E9. I find it to be more modern because I play mostly like popular and rock and styles more so than country. This works for me. So this E9 tuning from low to high is B, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, B, E, G sharp, then down to D sharp, and then up to F sharp.
Right. So that's that major 9 kind of.
Yeah, but you also have the dominant in there at the bottom. So you've got both 7s.
Oh, right, of course. Yeah.
So it's not just purely major.
Right, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so then I guess that's where the levers come in to alter.
Yes, I can alter this major 7. I can bring that down a half step with a knee lever.
Right. Okay.
And then I can also bring this 7 down to 6 if I need to as
so
well.
You've got the 6.
So this actually has a 2-throw.
Right.
This particular knee lever.
Interesting.
It's really and there's different pedal steel players will have different assignments for the levers and the pedals. There's actually different setups. Be more strings, there can be more pedals, there can be more levers.
And so each instrument is really the player's own, really,
yeah.
And you can't just jump on. It'd be hard to jump on a standard.
It can be. I mean, there are settings that are pretty standard across the board, but then there are some that are different. Some are backwards. They have the pedals doing the opposite things.
Right. Yeah.
It's all what you want.
Okay, that's interesting because it's. I imagine I see the guitar neck, and being a guitarist, and obviously people who maybe even have played a bit of slide guitar. But then it's a totally different ballgame, isn't it? The visualizing tonalities and everything.
I mean, I'm still learning. Obviously, it's a lifelong study.
Yeah.
I started rather late in my musical career, but I've just fallen head over heels over it.
Right.
And I just love it.
And
so
I'm
always learning.
you mentioned before you started as a guitarist. You did all the jazz guitar, the Freddie Green straight ahead stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and probably only about 5 years ago that I've been playing lap steel. Which came before the pedal steel, and we can get into the history of it too if you like.
Yeah.
And then I made the leap from lap to pedal about 5 years ago.
Okay, all right. So why don't we walk through the slight variations, because I know that obviously there's a guitar heritage here with the open strings, and people have seen like actual guitars and then like sort of blocked guitars and the whole thing. So why don't you walk us through that?
Stop me if I go too long. I tend to really pontificate on it because I find it fascinating. But it originated in Hawaii. The people who were explorers, the Spanish explorers, came over and had their Spanish guitars with them, classical guitars. And I think the indigenous Hawaiian people decided to have a go with their version of it. And their version actually, they thought it was easier to tune to an open chord as opposed to what a normal guitar tuning is. Which
And
is
people,
slightly,
people who play guitar will know that when you strum it, it's not a
it's
bad
kind of a chord,
sound,
but yeah, it's E minor 11, but
yeah.
it's not like a major chord ringing across like it is with lap steel. And so that's where they started. They called it slack key, because they were tuning down some of the strings and creating more slack with the strings to get the chord. And that was really their take on the Spanish guitar.
Right.
And then from there on, it moved forward. The sound became really popular in the United States, or I should say the mainland.
Right, the mainland, yeah.
And then from there, it sort of morphed into a solid body because they wanted to make it louder. And then the tunings, they wanted to have more tunings, so they started adding necks.
Right.
Instead of like the pedals and the levers came later. So they were like, how do we get different tunings? It's just one major chord. Like they used to like slant the bar sometimes to get
different
other
things, yeah.
intervals, but
I guess
sort of locked into the intervals that you have between the strings.
Yeah, I guess you're quite restricted because as you move up, you're getting different transpositions of a major chord.
Right, and you can sort of superimpose those over different bass notes to imply different chords.
Yeah.
That only gets you so far. So what they started to do is add necks.
Right.
And so eventually you had 3 and 4 neck lap steels that they wouldn't fit on your lap anymore, so they added legs, and they called it the console guitars.
Right.
These big consoles. It's just and over time it was deemed not practical. So they okay, we're going to have to do something.
So it's an engineering problem, really. Yeah.
Really, it is. It's like, how do we change the tunings of these strings in a practical way? And I think there were a few attempts at it, and eventually they came at this rod system underneath that pulls the strings via this changer here.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I see that.
And so what happened is eventually you came up with these 3 pedals that would pull the string down, the pitch. I'm sorry, raise the pitch up. What we would call pedal A raises my 5 and 5th string and 10th string up a whole step.
Oh, okay. So it's a set of strings.
Yeah, 5 and 10. They're octaves, and they go up a whole step when you press that.
Right.
The next one that was added was the B pedal, which raises your 3rd and 6th string up a half step. And then before they got to the 3rd pedal, what that did is when you played a chord like that, and you raise your 5th of that chord a whole step, and you raise the 3rd of that chord a half step, you get a 1 chord to a 4 chord. Or you get a 5 chord to a 1 chord.
Okay, interesting.
So from there, it was like the sky's the limit.
Right. Okay.
And then they added a C pedal, which raises the 4th and 5th string up a whole step. That's sort of practical if you want to get like a 1 chord to a 2 chord, like a 2 chord like that. So with just the chords I described, you don't have to actually move out of position to get it. So from here, there's your B chord, there's your 4 chord, there's your 2 chord, and then you've got your 4 levers. And so you've got your first lever, which is your left knee to the left, which lowers your roots, or your 4th and 8th. I'm sorry, raises. I'm sorry. And then the other way, your left knee to the right brings them down.
Okay. So starting to get into more chromatic kind of in position. Yeah.
Yes. And then the right knee left brings your 5ths, which is the 5 string and 10 string, down. And then your right knee right is the complicated. Brings your 2nd string down a half step. And then if you go one further, it's like a notch. It brings your 9th string down a half step.
Okay.
So then you bring it down a half step, it matches that, and then you can bring them both.
Oh, I see. Right.
It's
That's
and it goes on, and even when I describe it, sometimes I make a mistake because there's just so much that you can do.
About, Well, it's interesting that heritage, because thinking about it, you do hear that that dreamy Hawaiian sound that you get.
Yeah. Usually like a 6 kind of.
And it's funny because there is that sound is so particular to a certain type of country music as well, and it's weird that interesting lineage, because it's so Hawaiian in some elements, but then you can hear the bluesy yodeling over the top as well.
Sure.
It's quite interesting, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Think about it.
Absolutely. I mean, me not being a country player, I sort of represent a sort of a more modern breed of pedal steel player that plays more like in rock bands,
right?
Stuff like that. But you can't play this and not be too far away from country, especially if you do a move like the second to the third, it's just it screams it. Yeah. I mean, you've got players like Daniel Lanois, who works with U2 and has his own records, and he uses it in a very ethereal kind of fashion. Then you have modern players like Robert Randolph that come from the church, and there's a whole lineage of like church pedal steel playing.
Wow.
As well, which is a whole other style unto itself.
Right.
So there's a lot of modern takes on this. It's not really. It's sort of like ceasing to be just a country instrument. Like, stylistically, it's really being used in many different facets.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah. And so there's quite a lot going on as I look, because also with your right foot you've got the volume
pedal
to swell. And is that, I guess that's kind of, it's as much part of the sound as well, that sort of...
Absolutely. I mean, you can choose to lay on it a bit and get that real, that real sort of crying thing, thing, or not, or you can just keep it down and have something that's a little more staccato or with more attack,
Right. Well, I'm wondering, can we hear something to hear a lot of those elements together and just
sure.
hear it in action?
Absolutely. I can do a little improv for you.
Okay.
Thanks for watching. Click on the links for more interviews, follow us on Facebook, or subscribe.